Hi Ray.
Hi, how you doing?
Not too bad. So, just wanted to catch up with you because you've done a lot of work with us at East Sussex Works. You've got a programme called Pathway to Employment?
Yes, Pathway to Employment is aiming to find 50 work placements for 18 to 24 year olds that are currently signing on. And that's where obviously we met initially, was through finding me referrals for those placements.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank your project, what you're working on, and the involvement of the County Council as well, because it's helped with our referrals. Basically, you sent over some jobs.
Sure, yeah. We had a few placements, and initially we got off to a pretty slow start with the project. We were working with a job centre and expecting referrals to come through. Referrals weren't coming through as quickly as we'd hoped, and it was around that same kind of time that you got in touch with me, having seen a poster or a flyer or something that I had put together. And that was just another avenue for me to go down. And what I found with working with you was that you had a cohort of people, and people that were ready and people that were enthusiastic. My initial meetings with a few other people, especially places like the job centre, was that I was getting pretty disengaged people. It was hard to guarantee that they'd turn up to what you were offering, and the enthusiasm wasn't always there. So to work with a group of young people, which I found with all of the guys that we've worked with, has been that they've been enthusiastic and ready and willing to get involved in anything that we've managed to find.
Our programme, East Sussex Works, kind of generally helps people with learning disabilities, and some of the people which we passed on did have disabilities. How was it for you with dealing with those young people?
Personally, they were all fantastic. All of the guys that we've had on placement all the way through, initially sending over CVs and initial emails, as I mentioned before, they were all enthusiastic and all getting back to me in good time. And from that point of view, you wouldn't have realised or known that they had any disability whatsoever. When it came to interviewing, again, they were all great. I mean, the one case that we have of two guys, Daniel and Alex, who worked at Eastbourne Library, both coming from your cohort, both coming for an interview, both representing themselves so well that the manager who was interviewing with me decided that she'd rather offer both a job than have to choose between them. And I think that's kind of speaks volumes for how the guys were in terms of the initial meeting, and that enthusiasm that ran through every part of their involvement with the project, from sending over a CV to emailing or calling as many times as they could to apologise if they couldn't get over to somewhere. It was refreshing, because that's just simply not the case for all of the people that we've dealt with.
I found working with people with disabilities, sometimes there could be a stigma with people with disabilities, but I see that these people have gone against the grain and there was no stigma at all.
Oh, completely. You know, initially, when you meet someone like Alex or Daniel, you can see the effort that they've gone to get over to you for an interview, or to make sure that they're always in regular contact, and you build that trust level up. Seeing the two guys' CVs, they're some of the best CVs I have to say that I've seen throughout the whole year of the project that I've been doing. The variety of stuff that they've done, nearly always voluntary, which you know, for them, you'd love to see them move on to get something permanent, because both guys, all three guys that we've worked with, Martin as well, over at John O'Connor in Bexhill, they all deserve something full-time, something paid. But the voluntary aspects that they've got on their CVs, you know, they're going in and working and turning up every single day, you know, on time, all of those things that you'd expect from any worker, regardless of disability or not. So you can't say more than that about their efforts, really.
That's it. And the example that the County Council has shown in providing opportunities for these young people is so commendable. It would be nice to actually, other businesses in the county, to actually look at your model of what you guys have done by employing people and using a good pathway as well.
Of course, I think, you know, the council, like most big businesses, has a corporate parent, responsibility whereby people of different backgrounds, whether it's disabilities or different ethnic backgrounds, are looked to be catered for as much as possible. And the project, it didn't aim to deliberately cater for people with disabilities over any other person, but it just so happened that the guys that we've had through your cohort have been, some of the shining examples of when the whole process goes completely right. And that's the one thing that we've learned throughout the whole year of the project, is it doesn't always move as smoothly as you'd expect. And with the guys, the 3 guys that we've dealt with, there's been no complaints, there's been no issues. All of the managers have spoke glowingly about all 3 of the guys, and if there was opportunities to take them on, if it was as easy as saying you're hired, which unfortunately in most businesses that can be the case. With a business like the council, you can't point at someone and say you're hired, but you'd know that if there was a vacancy, they could be pointed towards it, and they'd have as good a chance as anybody.
So, how's the Pathway to Employment programme going at the moment as well? Yeah,
it's going really well. The project relies on a lot of buy-in from a lot of people, from managers within the council to people at the job centre, employment advisors, to the young people that we've got going on. But it's going well. Our target's 50. We're well on our way to that. Referrals, although not always coming through as smoothly as we'd like, or in as many numbers, they are coming through. And what we try to do is we try to give every young person whose CV that comes through the opportunity to at least have a look at a couple of the placements that we've got going on at the moment.
Another thing what was mentioned in the interviews, Daniel and Alex also talked about doing something which they liked doing. Previously, they were given jobs, maybe stacking a shelf somewhere, which they didn't want to do. For example, Daniel Mann, he has a burning desire to be within computers, and the digital skills advisor role was bang on. That was bang on.
Yeah, and that came from just the conversations we had with them. The environment that they both worked in, Alex and Daniel, was Learn Direct, a very supportive environment by its very nature, helping people of various ages get on with courses and things like IT. And he came in there and he had the expertise and the know-how, but it wasn't necessarily that part of it that was crucial. It was the ability to go in and talk to people of any backgrounds, and that's where they came through as much as being able to sit and tell an older person, for instance, how to use computing skills. It was being able to speak to all kinds of people, and that was the one part that we put over in the interview, and both the guys excelled. Alex, for instance, was initially a bit concerned about the level of interaction that he may have, and he wanted something a little bit quieter, but by the end of the placement he was doing as much stuff, if not more, than the normal staff that were there, your everyday staff, and he was proving to be an asset. So they were great, both great.
So did you see any changes from the first time they come into the workplace until when they left? Did you see any growth in them?
I think so. I mean, I tend to leave the placements to it as much as I can. One of the first days after agreeing the placements with 2 guys, I was getting on the train to go to County Hall, and I saw both of them getting off the train to walk over to the library. I think both of them were based outside of Eastbourne anyway, so it was a journey for them to get in. So that was really kind of almost heartwarming for me, because it was 2 guys that you'd put a bit of faith in, and there they were on the first day heading into work. And from there they both got on really well, as I've mentioned before, and I popped my head in a couple of times and they were both had their head down helping people. Alex was doing some additional courses, making the most out of Learn Direct whilst he was there. Daniel was helping out, helping some learners and generally just getting on with his role. I didn't intrude too much, because it's just, for me, it's nice to see that the people are there. Then I can step back and let the managers, immerse them in whatever they got going on.
Are any of these, any of them who you mentioned, are they still in contact with the library at all? Any of them?
As far as I'm aware, they maintain some level of contact. I think Alex continued on a voluntary basis within Eastbourne and sometimes Bexhill, where if there was room, he would go over there and help out. So he managed to extend his placement just by 1 or 2 days a week. So it wasn't that the cord was cut almost at the end of a placement. There was still some interaction there. And Daniel, although I haven't spoken to him regularly, I've checked in with him just to see how he's getting on, and even through you getting a bit of paperwork back and seeing how he got on, really. And it seemed that he was going on to go back to a position at a local shop that he'd been working in or volunteering in previously. So yeah, we like to think that they're both getting on well, and the library teams do ask about them and see how they're getting on, because they did enjoy having them in there.
Okay, so when does the project end, and how can people get in contact with your programme and show interest if they are?
Yeah, the project finishes officially at the end of June. Until then, people can send me their CVs. My email address is ray.brickley@eastsussex.gov.uk, and people can send their CVs and show a bit of interest in, if you've got a certain type of work that you're looking forward in, we can see if there's a certain type of placement that we've got that matches up to that. But all we're really looking for is enthusiastic young people. I mean, there's no matter of background or anything like that. It's just to have someone that's willing to work, and we can match them up as best we can with placements that we've got going on, and that is up until the end of June.
Okay, so that's how people can get in contact with you. So what different types of roles are there, and what roles have you had in the past?
Well, the council is obviously a massive employer, and the range of roles covers everything from what Martin took part in, working with contractors such as John O'Connor, doing grounds maintenance and a bit of gardening work, all the way through, like we've been talking about previously, with Alex and Daniel working in the library. We've had admin placements, we've had placements within children's centres, schools, everything in between really. So it's been a real mix. We haven't had one particular type of placement that's dominated. A lot of what we have, may be termed office work, and a lot of those placements get a lot of interest. But the nature of council is it's a wide-ranging employer, and the roles have been as vastly different as you could imagine within an organisation like that.
Yeah, the good thing about your project as well, because some of them were 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks short programmes, but I found it easier to sell as well because it had the county council in there.
Sure.
Some young people, I would mention, do you know what the county council is? Obviously they know it because either their parents pay rent to it, or it's involved in their life, and it was easy for them to make the decision to actually come over to you guys and get involved and be committed, because having that experience working with an organisation like yourselves will look good on their CV as well. So I think working with you guys has definitely helped people actually put some interest in doing some real work towards their careers.
Yeah, well, we'd hope so. I think the county council, it can be a bit of an enigma for certain young people. As you were mentioning, not everybody knows exactly what the county council does. Whether it's council tax or other elements. We do a lot of stuff, and hopefully there's enough there in some form or another that a young person can find something that they're interested in doing, or even if it's finding something they're not interested in doing, if it's having a taste of a role and thinking, you know what, I always thought I'd like to work in an office, but I did a couple of weeks work experience, you know what, it's not for me. At least you know that you can do that, and you've taken a chance to make that decision. And that's where the project's been great. For me personally, I've got to meet countless different types of people, from heads of service all the way through to your young person signing on. I mean, I've been there, so I know how difficult it is, and so it's been a great opportunity for me to meet and try and help as many people as possible in whatever little way that I can, even if it's something as small as taking a look at a CV.
So would you recommend people who've used East Sussex Works and Pathway to Employment programme together, the people who we worked with, would you recommend them to any other businesses out there? Yeah,
of course. I mean, we've mentioned to all of the guys that they can use me as a reference anytime they've been a credit to themselves within a work experience environment, often working for, in Martin's case, upwards of 6-8 weeks on a volunteer basis, going out every day, getting up, putting the effort in, as any buddy who's getting paid would, you know. So I would recommend all three of the guys, all of the guys that we've worked with, and no doubt your cohort in general, to any employer, because I think they'd be a real asset, because they're guys that want the opportunity. And there's a lot of people that would turn down opportunities, and these guys just simply aren't those type of guys and girls. Sorry.
Yeah.